Okay, today's walk's around the old Second World War airfield at Kings Cliffe. It's been a while since I've come here. It was an area that fascinated me in the early 2000s because a lot of people don't even know this place existed. It was an American 8th Air Force airfield for fighter planes during the Second World War from I think 1943 onwards. And it's still full of fascinating remains from that wartime period, if you can find them. Most of them have gone, but if you know what you're looking for, you can still find traces of life on this airbase, which has always been of great interest to me. So the walk's going to take us around the perimeter of the airfield, and depending how brave I feel, I might duck in and out of one or two places I probably shouldn't go to try and find some of these remains and make it a little bit more interesting. But that's where we are. We're going to walk around the outside and see what we find in terms of evidence of the old airfield as we go. We're walking across an area now known as Jack's Green, about a mile away from the road. A pretty isolated location this. We're coming up very close now to the airfield, or what was the airfield. Jack's Green about 3-4 years ago had planning permission granted for building, believe it or not, on here some sort of holiday village. So it seems a bit of a remarkable location to build a holiday village. I don't really see that it's the sort of place you would have a holiday village, but it has got planning permission, and yeah, it'll be a shame really. It's very quiet out here. It's right next to the old airfield, and yeah, it just doesn't sit comfortably with me to build something out on this spot. Maybe that's just me, but there's always been that one cottage here. True isolation, because it really is a long way from anywhere. But yeah, this is Jack's Green. Now the area up ahead, there's a sort of concrete base with a silver domed thingy just left of centre. This is really our first encroachment onto the old airfield. This used to be a very large, I think it was the largest aircraft hangar on the Kings Cliffe airfield site. So obviously the hangar's gone, but the concrete here is the base of the hangar, which we'll move on to in a minute. And yeah, that silver dome thing is a memorial, which we'll take a look at the moment. Very few people know about this. It really needs to be known by more. Important part of Peterborough's heritage, I guess, but we'll go and take a look. But this is the site of the old aircraft hangar here. Well, there you go, you can read it for yourself. This former hangar was the last of the hangar sites that the great Glenn Miller put on a show at. He toured all the airfields doing big shows. He was immensely popular obviously back then, doing big shows in the biggest buildings on all the airfields, which was the aircraft hangars. And this place was absolutely packed full of Kings Cliffe air personnel to listen to and enjoy Glenn Miller, and it was the last one. And sadly he died shortly after leaving here, in a mysterious aircraft crash somewhere over the channel. I don't think they even today found out exactly where the plane went down, but his last stand was right here on this spot. Apart from the concrete foundations or the concrete base of the hangar, the only thing that's left really that shows this might have been a hangar was this metal rail that runs along the end of the hard standing. This would have been where the gigantic hangar doors would have been, which they would throw open to move aircraft into for maintenance work. And they run along each end of the concrete base. This sort of rather barren, nondescript, rubble-strewn area used to be the site of a blister hangar. Blister hangars are very, very basic domed hangars for hiding aircraft under. So as the fighter planes, this was a fighter plane base rather than a bomber base. As they came back from their missions, they'd come off the main airfield and they'd just hide one plane per hangar underneath these blister hangars, so that if anyone did raid from above, they wouldn't be able to see the planes in theory. They'd only be able to see the hangars and probably not work out what they were. So yeah, this was a blister hangar site. Nothing much remaining of it now. Bit of metal work around the edges, and that's about it. These pieces of metal work, I like the metal straps that used to hold the blister hangar in place and sort of tie it down to the ground. Still strewn around the outside edges of this site. Okay, this is where this walk gets a bit tricky now, because I've kind of accidentally gone off the main footpath, accidentally, as they say, in order to try and reach some of the old wartime buildings which are on farm-owned land. And I shouldn't be doing this, so don't try this at home if ever you come out here, but I'm determined to try and make it, because a couple of years ago they tried to make the remaining buildings here listed properties to protect them, and they should be protected, but they failed. So these are not going to be here for all that much longer, and I just wanted to get some footage while they're still here. I've got a snake here, and if I see any sign of life, I'm out of here. So let's see what we can achieve. Well, I've managed to sneak across to this little wooded area here. I know there's some buildings in here, or there was 10 years ago. So I'm going to have a look around quietly and see if there's anything still here. We're actually inside one of the fighter pens On the corners of on each of the four corners of the airfield, there are some limited defensive buildings where if the site was invaded by land, this is where they would try to defend it from. This particular domed part, which is in effect an air raid shelter, is where the people who are manning this defence would have retreated to should there have been an air raid. So it's quite limited, but still surviving. I think we'll be getting out that way. Well, that's the front of the defensive pens. Those are the firing holes where you would have people well armed fending off any attackers should they come, which they didn't. Right, I'm going to attempt the risky part now, which is the holy grail of all sorts of airfield archaeologists, as we used to call ourselves, is to reach the control tower. The control tower is the kind of heart of the airfield. Most control towers have been destroyed on the airfields that still remain, but the Kings Cliffe one is still standing, albeit only just. I haven't been there for, good heavens, about 17, 18 years. I would absolutely love to get there once more, because it isn't going to be standing for much longer, and having failed to secure listing protection, then I can't see it standing even for the rest of my lifetime. So I'd love to get to it, but I am on private land now. In effect, it's the farmer's land. It's very quiet, so I don't see any life out here, so I think I can make it, but yeah, a bit of a risk here. I think I know where it is, but I'm going to flirt with the hedgerows now and see if I can get around there. You can see quite a large building in those trees over there, which is the one I remember last time I came here. Whether I can get over to it or not, I'll try. Wow. No idea what this was. Still in good condition. Right, that's an exposed air raid shelter. That would have been turfed over and covered over to protect it with soil and whatever. This is the sort of escape chute end of it. That sort of raised bit on top of this one is where, if the entrance was blocked through a bomb blast, they would have to climb out of that chimney in effect at the top. But yeah, you don't often see them like this. They're usually still pretty buried, but this one's obviously had all the soil and whatever blown away. I'll try and get around the back of it, get a better view. That would be your escape chimney. Can't quite see what's in it. And the entrance would be down the other end. Which is on this side. I don't think there's any way you can get in this one. Okay, let's try and get to this control tower. I always feel like I'm in some sort of World War II escape movie here. I don't really want to be seen. I'm just sort of skulking around from hedgerow to hedgerow in the hope I'm going in the right direction. Adrenaline pumping. That looks like another exposed air raid shelter with the top off this one. See if I can get a look inside. Yeah. Air raid shelter. These brick plinths here would have had wooden planks running across between them, which is what you sat on basically. But this one's collapsed. My guess is this one probably had an electrical generator in it, so if the airfield was bombed and they lost all power, they would resort to their own on-site generators. I'm only going by the metal overhanging brackets that presumably had barbed wire on to stop people getting electrocuted. I'm only guessing. Right, where now? Let's head over here. I really need to get sight of the control tower so I can get my bearings. See if we can sneak down here. Okay, I see it. There she is, through the bushes. Right, can't see anybody. There it is, Kings Cliffe Airfield Control Tower, still standing. Don't know how long I'm going to get away with being here before somebody pounces. From this control tower they would look out across the runways. If you can just see that parched area, which I'm panning along now in the distance, that was one of the runways. Yeah, and they call all the shots from here. If you've seen any wartime movies involving an airfield, you'll have seen people in the control tower. Absolutely iconic location. And as I said, there's very few of these control towers still standing, and this one is not going to be standing much longer. So I'm not going to stick around for too long. But absolutely thrilled to have been able to come back and see it again before it disappears. Fantastic. There used to be graffiti on here from the wartime period, but I think most of it's gone now. This green paint is very, very stereotypical of control towers. There's not much of it left now, most of it's come off, but yeah, they all had this green paint on them. It kind of just goes with the building. definitely not dating back to wartime. That says, or did say, the 8th USAAF. That's the 8th United States of America Air Force, and it was the 20th fighter group of the 8th that were based here. I don't think that's original graffiti, but at least it has more relevance than most of the rest of the rubbish on here. Well, that's brilliant. May not mean a lot to you to see that, but it means a lot to me. I spent a long time photographing this airfield, and one of the biggest tragedies in my photographic life was I lost all the photographs to a hard drive crash. And I've never really wanted to come back since, because it just breaks my heart to know what I lost. So to be able to come back and grab some video, particularly of this building. So I've only been here once before. I didn't really have the bottle to try it again, but it's so quiet out there now that I was quite determined today I was going to have a crack at getting to the control tower, and I've done it. It's absolutely fantastic. If I never see it again, at least I've got some footage. I hope it stands. It should have been protected. It really, places like this should have been protected. We'll miss it when it's gone, but there you go. Such is life. I'm going to get the hell out of here now and get back under cover and move back somewhere remotely close to the footpath, because this ain't it. This is the building in front of the control tower. This is known as the Battle HQ. This airfield's got 2 Battle HQs. We'll talk about Battle HQs a bit later on the walk. There's a better one than this. This is a sort of above ground Battle HQ, which I must admit I've never seen before. More traditionally they are sort of semi-submerged, and that's what I hope to find a bit further on the walk, but I'm going to try and get in, see if there's anything inside this one. Nice. Yeah, good condition. Another air raid shelter. It is an air raid shelter. I've just climbed up and had a look down from the top. This one's got a window in it. Can only assume that was added later. But yeah, still standing, doing nothing. Wherever you go on the airfield and around the edges, there are remaining walls and piles of brickwork from derelict buildings. Hard to make sense of them, but you can actually get hold of copies of the old Air Ministry maps. I've got one at home. It's about 6 foot square, put together in the 1940s, and it marks out absolutely every single building on the site. So armed with that, you can actually come out and say this was, and put a name to it, which adds to the interest. But I've not looked at it for a while, but you can identify all these sites. The track that we're walking on used to be known as the Perry track, or perimeter track to give it its proper name. It ran a complete circuit around the entire airfield, with all the runways to the right inside of it. this just skirted the whole airfield, and basically when planes landed or were due to take off, this was their sort of parkway system. They'd come out on here, because this used to be concrete covered, which has obviously all been broken up and stripped away now, but they would trundle around these perry tracks to either hangars or to the appropriate runway if they were leaving. So this was the key sort of, this was the M25 or the North Circular of the airfield. But like I say, it's just a dirty track now, but was once concrete covered, as virtually everything was on this site. The area in front where the grass is straw-like in colour is the site of one of the runways. We're right on the end of the runway now where it meets the perimeter track, so it would have shot off in the distance beyond those trees. And all the US Air Force bases had the same runway design. It was like a triangle with runways basically pointing in all directions so that planes could take off into the wind no matter where the wind was coming from. But yeah, this is one of the 3 runways. I'm not sure there's any concrete left for the runways here, but there's probably something under the ground, hence nothing grows too well here. Now I've got to try and find this battle HQ. Okay, my main target today was to get to the control tower. My second target was to find the battle HQ, which I have. It's just over my shoulder, so I'll see what I can film of it, which is probably not a whole lot. You know, battle HQ is a sort of very dramatic name for a fairly small building that was partly submerged on these airfields. The idea was, if the airfield was attacked, this is the last man stands base. Basically, the controller, the commander, the people in charge would retreat to the battle HQ, which is off the airfield, always hidden, as this one is, or certainly was, in a hedgerow. It's mostly submerged, so it's not easy to see, and it's made out of very thick concrete as well. And the idea was that they could still manage the defence of the site and make all the key decisions. Would probably be the last part of the airfield that got taken if we were invaded. So, you know, every site has one. Unfortunately, that because of the nature of the beast, and because they're like 2/3 submerged, they flood. The water gets in, they flood, and they're all 3 to 4 foot underwater, so you can't get in them. But they'll probably be the last building to go, because to try and demolish this would take one hell of a piece of kit. They're made to last. But yeah, this is the main Kings Cliffe Airfield battle HQ. I'll go and see what footage I can get and show you. Okay, this would be the entrance to the battle HQ. I've got to be careful here, because it will be flooded. It is flooded, you can see. It's pretty deep as well. I can't get you to the corner there where you'd be able to see inside, but it is flooded. But this would have been the entrance. It would have been capped with concrete, but this was the way in and the way out of the of the battle HQ. Once you'd entered the down steps here and turn right around that wall, you would travel under here to the main part of the HQ, which is in there, in amongst those trees. I clamber up. Yeah, this is the main room. This is the part that stays above ground, and those slits were to enable people inside to see out, but still give maximum protection. You can see how thick that concrete is, which is why these buildings tend to last. Even if they do flood, it would take something to move this. But yeah, you could look out through those slits, but you could get on and do what you have to do in there without fear of somebody blowing it up Definitely a sort of last man stand base. Battle HQ. Right, we're right next door to the Battle HQ now, and if the Battle HQ wasn't particularly good at defending itself, this would be. You'd have a machine gun in here. I think they call them mushroom pillboxes because they look like mushrooms. I'm pretty sure we might be able to get in here. It needs to be short, and I'm not. So yeah, it's circular. Would give you views all around. If anybody did get anywhere near that Battle HQ, which is about 20 yards to the right, they'd have to put up with some grief from the defenders in here. Time for a break. Time to charge the batteries up. I brought a battery pack and a cable this time, so I'm going to give it a 15-minute charge, otherwise I'm going to run out again. Another of the mushroom style machine gun posts right on the edge of the airfield. Ominous looking thing. Walked towards this one, I thought there was somebody pointing a gun at me. Somebody with a sense of humour, I think. Can't resist popping over and having a look at this one. Not quite sure I've ever seen this one before. Whatever it is, you can't get in it. One end of it's open, but it's absolutely covered by brambles, so absolutely no way of exploring that one at all. Right, crack on. Well, we've dropped down to the edge now of the Kings Cliffe to Wansford Road. These are probably the most familiar surviving buildings to many, because you can see them as you drive down, as I say, between Wansford and Kings Cliffe. On this bottom corner of the airfield. These are in pretty good condition. Not perfect, but they're in pretty good condition compared with some of the other fighter pens around the site. You certainly get a decent view and a decent shot of anything coming in from the road here. It's certainly well positioned. And should they need to vacate their shooting positions because of an air raid, they just head round the back where there should be a shelter, and there is. And they'd see out the raid here and then disappear back to their defensive positions. That's it. Got about a 1 mile trek down the road now to find a car, hopefully. Yeah, good exercise, good 3-hour trip. I saw one person and a dog across the field as well, so good isolation. I've got to go to the chemist now and get my diabetes medication. I'll probably see 5 times more people going to the chemist than I have in the last 3 hours. So for those that think coming out here is somehow carnage and totally the wrong thing to do, give your heads a wobble. You know, give your heads a wobble. Right, this is proper isolation. I've not seen anybody, I'm not spreading anything, and I'm not catching anything either, so this is the place to be. Madness.